understand diversity and inclusion conversations are very important to have within an organization, but unfortunately, sometimes they cause tension. Why do you think that tension occurs?
I'd bubble it into three reasons. I think the first one is we are doing it in a bit of an antiquated way, right? Historically, diversity and inclusion was very policy-driven, very compliance-driven, and unfortunately, many practices are still over-rotating on that. Policy, compliance are all very important, but we're talking about human beings. And so we're not really tackling the emotional aspect of the work. We're doing really good on processes and structures, but we need to do better on actually engaging people as human beings. That's number one. The second one is natural. It's fear, right? If you look at some of the headlines that are out there today, people are getting blasted for this. Some people deserve it, and other people, it's unintentional that they're stepping into it by saying the wrong thing. And so if you're a human being who's not very close to this conversation, of course you're gonna be a little bit nervous about it. And then I think the third piece about this is, the reality is that sometimes in our efforts to be inclusive, we actually end up being exclusive. One of the things we try to do at eBay is to make sure that when we have a women's group that's focused on women in tech, that we say this group is focused on women in tech, not just for women in tech. And so we're proud that we have a couple of male leaders who are actually in leadership positions in our Women in Tech employee-run group. And so I think the more that we, number one, rely on the human side, number two, actually stop being afraid, right, and just jumping in, and number three, start including the majority groups that are in positions of influence so they can be in the room to hear some of the experiences that minority groups are having. I think over time people will understand more and be less afraid.
Speaking of that afraid, that fear, is that where the Courageous Conversations program kind of stemmed from, trying to combat and kind of solve that problem that you see in the organization?
Absolutely. We started Courageous Conversations because, many of us grew up, regardless of where you are in the world, hearing that you don't talk about politics when you get to the workplace. You don't talk about religious differences or race or gender. Leave all that stuff for the dinner table or for when you're at the bar. And the future of work, we believe at eBay, is that people have mobile devices. There are televisions that are in cafeterias in many of our tech workspaces. And so you can't tell someone not to talk about a Black Lives Matter campaign or a Me Too initiative because they're seeing it at the same time that they're in the space. What we also realized, though, was that even though people are seeing it, they'll shut it down and they won't talk about it. And so what we said was, look, it's still going to be uncomfortable. There's no such thing as a comfortable way to talk about these things, but it's our responsibility to make sure that we created safe and facilitated spaces for people to have these discussions. And so it's a long-term journey. The way we started was working with an external company called the Human Library. We brought external folks in who represented many different identities, and our employees had super candid conversations. And the only feedback we got was, one, we wish it could have been longer, and two, can you please do this again? The way it was constructed was, let's say I'm the person who has ADHD, and 5 eBay employees are around the table and they've never really had a chance to talk openly with somebody who has that disability. At first, it was really silent. And then that one courageous person stepped up and said, so what exactly does it mean? And does that mean that you are all over the place? And then what happened was beautiful. That external person had a very candid conversation. They weren't offended because they were prepared for these questions. But at the same time, other employees saw their peers being courageous enough to open up and have a conversation, and then it was a flywheel after that. And so the long-term goal is that employees will be able to talk with each other like that, but we're trying to right now build the muscle, build an expectation.
And so how have you seen these initiatives trickle down and affect the products and services of eBay?
In the hiring process, you're starting to see a more diverse group of individuals. Not always based on some of the traditional things like gender or race or ethnicity, but sometimes based on, oh wow, this person went to this school, but I'm looking at their profile and understanding that they're capable of doing X, Y, and Z. A prime example that I'll give you is a couple of years ago, so I own university recruiting as the Chief Diversity Officer. My team does an amazing job at really being inclusive. We hired a very brilliant PhD student who happened to have cerebral palsy, to the point where this person had to have someone accompany them to work every day for their summer internship. We were then very intentional about aligning this person with a manager who we knew was a supportive manager, and created a space so that this person could come to work and work. And then that manager amongst all the other projects, said, do what is unique to you and use that as a form of empowerment. And so this intern actually created an app essentially on our platform or on our mobile platform that allows people who can only make small movements, so a small movement of the nose or with the head, to actually navigate eBay's site, to list products and to buy products at the same time. And so it's called Head Gaze. We then said, look, we can't just hold this inside of eBay, and so we open sourced it and put it on GitHub. I can't directly say that Courageous Conversations made that happen. What I can say is that if you look at our journey from 4 years ago to now, when you talk to people inside of the company, they tell me, they're the litmus test, and they say to me, hey, I feel like we have a totally different environment where we're seeing more people come into the applicant funnel, we're seeing more people be included, and we're seeing more people empowered to create things like Head Gaze. And so that's how we're seeing it trickle down.